What's up, everybody? Kevin from Basie here, talking sports with you again. I know it's been a little while, but I figured let's start this back up. And we're going to go ahead and dive into some topics about the NBA today. A lot of really interesting storylines to start the season, but there are three main ones I want to hit upon today. So the first being the Warriors and Steph Curry. They had a couple down years after KD left, but oh my goodness, they are back. Second being Anthony Davis. He started off a little slow, so we're going to go into dive into some of the stats related to him and his performance earlier in the year and the kind of the Lakers struggles. And the third, we're going to talk about a team near and dear to my heart. I don't think anybody in the national media really cares about them, but the San Antonio Spurs. They started off slow, but a little bit of hidden gems on that team that I want to talk about a little bit. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Let's start with the Warriors. So the Warriors right now are 17-2 as we sit here today. They have a 13.6 point differential. That means they're beating teams by an average of 13.6 points. And I believe the stat was in the 5 or 6, 7 games that they've fallen behind by double digits. They've won every single one of those. Just incredible. I mean, the crazy part about this team is right now Klay Thompson, who's a multi-time All-Star, a key cog on multiple championship teams for the Warriors, hasn't even played yet. He's still recovering from the ACL and the Achilles injuries from last year and the year before, and he hasn't played in almost 2.5 years at this point, and yet they're still 17-2 and not just beating teams, they're blowing them out. And before we dive into it too much, I mean, it's kind of remarkable. I mean, if you remember last year and the year before, the storyline surrounding the Warriors, is Curry even really that good? Maybe they missed Durant a lot more than people realize. Draymond looks washed, and they got a bunch of just average guys around there. And suddenly, the scariest team in the league, and back to the 2016 Warriors form where you blink and they go on a 16-0 run to completely flip the complexion of a game. And I think what you'll see from this team is it's very similar to those Warriors teams pre-KD in that they're predicated on the defense. You have a lot of really good defensive players that they play in the rotation, from Andrew Wiggins to Draymond Green to Andre Iguodala to coming off the bench, the Otto Porters of the world. This is a solid defensive team. And I think that was always the hallmark of those Warriors teams is, let it be known that they're a great offensive team because of Steph Curry, but they always won because their defense was, through the roof good. And that's exactly what we're seeing today. Right now, they have the best defensive rating in the league, holding teams to 99.9 points per 100 possessions. I mean, that's remarkable. And what's so special, and I think gets often overlooked, is the power of Steph Curry. Because of how good Steph is, they can play multiple defenders and still have a really good offense because of the gravity that Steph Curry creates. Now, it's not the greatest statistical season that Steph's ever had. I mean, he's had some amazing seasons, but he's still averaging 28 points, 46% from the field, 42% from three. And by the way, he's on pace to make more three-pointers than the previous NBA record of 400 and some odd threes that he made when he was a unanimous MVP. So this guy is 33 now. He's getting up there in age, but he's still as good as ever. And really, this team works because of Steph Curry. And I think it's often overlooked. Last couple of years, 2 years ago, Steph missed pretty much the entire season. Last year, he, drugged the team to the 8th seed, and then they didn't make the playoffs. But it gets overlooked how good this guy is. And I think it's really hard for your casual observer to really understand the impact of Steph and Curry. And the biggest thing is when you watch these Warriors teams, they can play multiple defenders that aren't necessarily great offensively and still thrive in offense. They have the second best offensive rating in the league at 113.4, which is crazy. I mean, you think about it. Draymond's not a scorer. Andrew Wiggins was always a high volume, low efficiency scorer. And they're starting both of those guys. Jordan Poole is an unproven third-year player who all of a sudden has blossomed out of nowhere. Gary Payton was a journeyman player, and if you look at the team that they've surrounded him with, it's a bunch of journeymen. Otto Porter was a cast-off. Gary Payton has been out of the league. Andrew Wiggins wasn't wanted by Minnesota anymore. playing Kevon Looney significant minutes. Andre Iguodala looked washed with the Heat, and all these guys are contributing. And I liken it kind of to what Tim Duncan used to do for the Spurs. He elevated everybody on the team, and the whole team just clicks. I mean, they're the most unselfish team in basketball. They have the most assists per game, and it's all due to this guy. And the biggest thing is when you watch Steph Curry, he has such a gravity about him. Whenever he's moving around the court, he's one of the best off-ball movers that we've seen in today's game. Oftentimes the LeBrons, the James Hardens, the Kevin Durants, when they don't have the ball in their hand, they kind of stand off to the corner, they stand off to the side. There's not a lot of movement. But if you watch Stephen Curry, he's always running around screens, moving around, making the defense pay attention to him whether he has the ball or not. And in doing so, he creates so many opportunities for his teammates. Open three-pointers, layups left and right. It's crazy, and that's always been the Warriors' greatest strength is that they're the team that always gets these open shots. And you look and you're like, how do teams just keep giving up layup after layup after layup after wide open three-pointer to these guys? And it's because the defense has to pay so much attention to Steph Curry, not only when he has the ball, but when he doesn't. And I think that's really the power is, a lot of players demand a ton of attention when they're on ball. But off ball, you don't really have to pay attention to your Dame Lillards and your Durants nearly as much. But Steph is almost more dangerous without the ball in his hands because you give him, you lax for half a second and he comes off a screen and he has a wide open three. And in that gravity just, bends the defense left and right. And it allows for some average offensive players in that Golden State supports to all of a sudden have the number one offensive rating in the league because they're getting wide open shot after wide open shot as a result of Steph Curry. And, factor into that, they're adding back a Klay Thompson. Now, granted, he hasn't played in a while, but this guy's motivated. He's good. He's a multi-time All-Star, future Hall of Famer in my mind, one of the best defenders in basketball, one of the best shooters we've seen behind Steph Curry. And this team looks every bit the part of that 2015 2016 team that went 73-9 and then fell into the Cavs in the finals. But 17-2 without arguably the second best player on the team, that is remarkable, and that should be scary for the rest of the league. I mean, these guys aren't just winning, they're blowing everybody out. Now let's go to the flip side. So a team that has struggled early in the year, Los Angeles Lakers. Everybody thought that these guys should be the favorite in the West. Nobody thought the Warriors would be in contention, and it's kind of been a flip of the script. The Warriors have jumped out to a big, the hot start, and the Lakers have struggled. I believe right now they sit at 10-11, almost a quarter of the way through the season with a losing record. And one of the biggest reasons for that is one, Anthony Davis. Now, granted, LeBron's missed a lot of games, so of course that's going to have some impact. But Anthony Davis was the guy that many have touted as the best power forward since Duncan, and many argue is more talented and better than Duncan ever was at his peak. Well, can we just slow down on that for a second? Because one, Anthony Davis has never been the best player in a title team like Tim Duncan was, and has never really been a leader of a team that has gone on any significant playoff run. But this year, Anthony Davis is really well known for his ability to kind of have the point guard skill set a little bit. He's got jump shot. Well, this year, I don't know what's happened to this guy. He is shooting 16.7% from three, which is the worst in NBA history by any player with at least 2 attempts per game in 20 or plus more games played. Not just the worst in the NBA this year, the worst in NBA history. Come on, you got to be better, AD. Also, 38% on mid-range shots. That's the worst in the NBA of any player with over 100 attempts. 33% on jump shots. The worst in the NBA with anybody with 150 or more attempts. This isn't a guy that's playing like one of the top 5 players in basketball. He's playing, he's still good defensively as always, but without that jump shot, they're going to be ever reliant on Anthony Davis, on AD, to space the floor for LeBron and lineups with Russell Westbrook, Dwight Howard, with a bunch of guys that don't really shoot the basketball. And if AD's not making a shot, these Lakers are in trouble. But I think if you see the struggles of the Lakers have really been a microcosm of the struggles for Anthony Davis, and the Lakers will go as he goes, especially when LeBron's out. I mean, LeBron is always kind of going to be the rock and the foundation for that team. But in order for this team to win, they need Anthony Davis to be special. They can't afford for him to be average or below average. He has to be the Anthony Davis that we saw in the finals a number of years ago. And look, I'm a huge Tim Duncan fan, so I always thought it was comical that Anthony Davis would be compared to Duncan. But I think this kind of just further illustrates that how flawed that comparison ever was. I mean, yes, Davis has a myriad of skills, but Duncan dominated the game in a way that Davis simply cannot consistently do. Duncan was a leader. He elevated his teammates. He was always the center point of that defense and really got everybody in line and got that defense going, protected the rim, kept everybody's heads on straight and kept everybody focused on the end goal. And Davis, 21 games into a season, has looked average, hasn't elevated the team when he had the opportunity to with LeBron out, and the team really needed it. So let's just stop those comparisons. I don't think it's fair to Anthony Davis. I don't think it's fair to Tim Duncan. It's disrespectful to Duncan. As good as Duncan's been, he's won 5 titles as a leader of a team. Davis has won 1 as the sidekick for LeBron. So, anywho, I'm sure AD will turn it around, but really, really rough start for him thus far. And the third topic I wanted to get to, this one hits a little bit closer to home with me. As you guys know, I'm a big Spurs fan. A little bit of a rough start for the Spurs, to put it mildly. They're 5-13. It's the worst, I believe, second worst start in their history. They started 4-13 this year. I think the only season they started worse was when Greg Popovich took over in the 96-97 season, and that was the season they famously went 20-62 and drafted, got the number 1 pick and drafted Tim Duncan, and the rest is history. But Spurs have been bad. I mean, let's to put it mildly. They trade away DeMar DeRozan last year, or during the summer, and really lose his creation ability, and it shows how important he was to that team last year. Though he was not a great defender and so limited the ceiling of the team, he definitely raised the floor to a large degree. And what you've seen early on is his team really struggled to find their identity and understand who's really going to be that leader. But I think what's kind of lost in the shuffle of how bad this team has started off is, 1, they've been really competitive in a lot of games, but 2, the emergence of Dejante Murray. This is a guy who, coming into the league, the 29th pick out of Washington back in the 2016 draft, was incredibly raw. At the time, he fell to the Spurs. He was projected to be a late lottery pick, somehow falls to 29, and the Spurs grab him. This guy has been raw, but he's worked at his game every year. And, it's his second year in the league, I believe. He was second team all NBA defense. And, still a great defender. But this year, he's taken it to a whole nother level, filling that void for DeMar DeRozan. And this season, he's averaging 19 points a game, 8 assists, 8 rebounds, 2 steals a game on 45% from the field. It's been a remarkable transformation from Murray. He's really become the leader and the commander of that offense. And as a big Murray fan myself, it's been amazing to see his transformation. I mean, he's always been kind of the vocal leader at times for these teams. I remember, I think his second year in the league, Aldridge got in an altercation, was upset, and, Dejante puts his arm around Aldridge, waves off Pop, and says, "No, I got it, Pop. I got it. I'll take care of this." And he's always been kind of that leader, but to really have him be the center point of the offense and defense, and the head of the snake, proverbially, has been amazing. And it's all a testament to his hard work. But here's some jarring stats for you guys. So the Spurs have a net rating of -2.5, which means that they're, on average worse than the teams they play. And, that's not great. And it's a testament to their 5-13 record. Great reflection of that. But with Dejante Murray on the court, that net rating comes to 0. Okay, so not a huge deal. 0 to -2.5. But how about the differential with Murray on the floor versus off? So the Spurs are 19.4 points per 100 possession better with Murray on the court than off. So what does that mean? It means that for basically every game, the Spurs are 19 points better when Murray is on the court versus when he's off. Now, that doesn't mean they're beating teams by 19 points, but it means just a testament to how important and how pivotal he is to the complexion of this team. It's jarring to see that, 5-13 record. How bad would they be if it weren't for Dejante going out there every night? I mean, one of the things Pop has echoed throughout this early season is, whenever Dejounte's not on the floor, we're in trouble. Basically, I mean, he's been their savior in a lot of cases. And just the other night, they have a game against the Celtics, and they jump out to an early 23-point lead, something like that, and kind of fall apart as they've been wont to do. And it's late in the fourth quarter. The Spurs are down 88-81, 3 minutes left. It looks like another blown lead, another catastrophe, and a long string of games that the Spurs have lost, and kind of the wheels have come off a little bit. And then what happens? Well, Dejante Murray happened. He scores 8 of the final 15 points for the Spurs, 13 of the 26 points in the fourth quarter. He has clutch shot after clutch shot, including the icer. They get the shot to ice the game over Dennis Schroeder, a fadeaway jumper from the free throw line. And it's just special watching this guy. You're seeing the maturation of a young star in this league. And I think he definitely warrants All-Star consideration. And if the Spurs record were better, I think he absolutely would be an All-Star. But, being in a small market in San Antonio, it's going to be tough to convince the voters. But I think he's absolutely somebody that deserves that nod and that recognition. And I hope the league looks into it. So for all you Spurs fans, look, it's been a rough season, but I think this guy's been in the brightest star and the silver lining to what has otherwise been a horrible season. And I have faith that these guys can turn it around. I mean, I think you have a lot of good talent on the team. It's a matter of getting them all to gel together as one. So anyways, thanks for joining me guys today. Really enjoyed being back and talking some NBA. Let me know your thoughts, how you feel about the Warriors being back, Anthony Davis' struggles, or how you feel about my guy Dejante down in San Antonio. Thanks, everybody.